What if the greatest chapters of your life haven't been written yet? What if the boldest prayers, the deepest breakthroughs, and the loudest praises are still ahead of you? Today we close out season 4 with a message of hope, purpose, and the promise that God's not finished writing your story. There are still songs yet sung, and you're about to find out why. Let's dive in. Hey, champions, and welcome back to Champion Life Podcast. It is season 4, episode 7. This is our last episode of the season. We're so excited and so grateful that you guys have just been here with us for these past 7 episodes. We have had 7 amazing guests, but today we have our last guest for the season, Kirsten Ursula, and we're so excited to have her on. Kirsten, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome. Listen, we're so thankful that you joined us today for our last finale episode. And so really, I kind of just want to just kind of really look at your life and kind of like just see what God is doing in your life and really hear your story a little bit. So really quickly, I want to just break the ice a little bit.
Okay.
What's something that not many people know about you, but they should?
Okay. I would say not many people know that I'm one of 3 siblings, that I have a older sister and a younger brother. But I'm one of 7 if you count the 4 dogs that we have. So yeah, we're a big little family over here.
Nice, nice. Yes, we love the family. We love the family. Actually, I'm actually one of 9, so I feel you on that one.
You
Now,
got me beat.
but that's awesome. That's awesome. And so if you could title this season in your life, like a worship album,
Okay.
what would it be called?
What would my like season of life be called as a vision? I think it'd be titled In the Waiting.
In the
That's
waiting.
like that's what I would title like this season of life right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so, I think that, so many times, we think that, our seasons are meaningless or, they're uncomfortable. But a lot of times in those, like in these different seasons, God's going to teach you something new. And
Hmm.
so the waiting is really good, like whether you're in the waiting for things to happen or doors to open or doors to shut, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
God will just make things happen. And so that's awesome. I really do. Really do like that. And so for our listeners, listen, maybe what's your song right now? Like what's the album of your life right now? And
Mhm.
how can you intentionally seek that space in in your life? So listen, I want to talk about calling over comfort, right? And
Okay.
so you were telling me a while ago, kind of about like you leaving Liberty University to follow what you knew was a calling from God. And so, what was going through your heart and your mind during that season of surrender and surrendering to God and surrendering to what He wanted you to do in your life?
Yeah, so um okay, firstly, that's my dog. So I'm sorry if you hear her in the
No
background.
worries, no worries.
Anyways, yeah, I feel like both going to Liberty and leaving Liberty were both just huge steps of obedience that the Lord was asking of me, and both of which I like didn't understand ever, like in any point of like the decision process. And one thing I just like learned through both of those seasons was that a lot of times the Lord asks you to take a step of obedience and he's not going to tell you why. Like he's not going to tell you what he's asking you to go and do or give you, an itinerary
Yeah,
for when you get there.
right.
But it was the most overwhelming sense of peace in both decisions. And I think that's what made me like know that it was something that the Lord was asking of me, was because I didn't understand it. I didn't know why he was asking me to do that. I mean, going to Liberty, my brain was thinking like, why would I leave here? Like I've been born and raised in Lubbock. I've gone to this church my entire life. All of my friends are here, my family is here. Like Liberty is in Virginia, which is 23 hours away from home. I know absolutely nobody. Like, that's crazy. Like, there's no way. But it was like the more that I sought the Lord in that process, the more just peace that he gave me over it. It was like I wasn't worried about anything. I wasn't worried about what I was going to study or how I was going to make it work financially or what it was going to be like to make friends. It was like, here's what I just need you to trust me and trust the peace that I'm giving you, because the peace and the understanding don't come at the same time. But when you surrender to like the peace that he's giving you in those decisions, it's like if you can just rest in that and trust him in those decisions, the understanding is going to come later. And I look back at my season at Liberty and I understand what he was doing in that season of my life. There's still things that the Lord is revealing to me that I was learning or that he was changing in my heart in my time over at Liberty. But yeah, it was just the peace that the Lord was giving me. And then when the Lord asked me to leave, I was like, God, I feel like I just got here. Like, I feel like I just entered into the season and like I'm learning to love it. Like, I love Liberty. I love the community. I love the worship team. And I love all of these things about it. And like, now you're asking me to leave. And not only are you asking me to leave, but you're asking me to go back to this place that you called me away from. Like, I didn't think that this was going to be part of your plan. I never thought that like you would ask me to go back to loving. But it was the more that I sought the Lord and I saw him in prayer and seeking mentorship and people to just pray with me, to intercede for me, and all of those things, that I was like, okay, I don't know what this means, but I'm going to trust him. And I have so much peace about this decision. And so we're just going to, jump right in and just trust the Lord. And I've just seen his faithfulness and received more understanding for why he brought me home the longer that I've been here. But it takes that initial step of obedience for you to like see the fruit of what he's asking of you. And I think that's really like just the biggest thing that I've learned in both of those decisions of going and leaving was sometimes you just have to trust the peace that he's giving you to make those decisions and let that be enough and the rest will follow. And it does every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think really, like a lot of times in our life, like we think like we have this big picture, right? And like we're trying to put this together and add A and B together to come up with F, and like we're trying to like have our own equation, but many times like those equations will lead to negative numbers. Right, and you be like, hold on, God. Well, hold on. Like, well, I think like this is better for me. Well, I think that like, I want to pursue this, but God's like, nah, nah, nah. Listen. What you have planned, it may lead to temporary satisfaction, but mine's going to lead to eternal satisfaction. Come on, eternal life, right? Life more
Sure.
abundantly. And it says like whenever you find Christ, you find abundant life. Not whenever you find your opinion or your way or your thoughts, right? Because those are these are just temporary things. But when you truly seek God, and sometimes, like you said, sometimes like you can be like, but what, God, why? Like this is a good thing. Like going to liberty is a good thing, right? And and really like learning and deepening my faith in my Bible and my Word is a good thing.
Yeah.
But God says no. I'm gonna need you back, to go back to Lubbock, Texas, right? Because that's where I want you. That's where I need you, and that's where I want you to grow and live a life in abundance. And so I think that's so awesome that that you follow God's voice, and because a lot of people will run like Jonah did. They'll
Mhm.
run like Jonah, and they'll find themselves, in a big fish, wondering, God, why am I here? Because you were disobedient and you didn't follow God's voice. He told you to go to Nineveh, but you ran.
Yeah.
But thank you to God that Kirsten heard God's voice and she obeyed. Come on.
Amen.
Absolutely. And really, like think about this, you know, as believers, as believers, we don't necessarily obey God for the blessing, but the blessing just comes because that's who He is. Come on, right? And so
That's
like you weren't obeying God because oh yeah, I know that there's a blessing coming. Like no, you obeyed no, you obeyed Him because you fear the Lord and you love Him. You know what I'm saying? And so the blessing just follows that. It follows that.
yeah, obedience to God, like I think is just it's not something that we do because we have to. Like it's not something that we do so that we can stay in good standing with God. Like we obey because we love him. Like we literally simple it's as simple as that. Like you
Come
obey
on.
because you love him, because you want to honor him, because your obedience blesses God. And because I love him, I want to bless him. I want my life to honor him and to give him glory. So whatever that is that he's asking of me, regardless if I understand it or not, if I know that that's something that the Lord is asking of me and he's simply just asking for my obedience, then like I don't have to understand it. I'll just do it because I love you.
Absolutely. Come on. And really, if people would just tap into that mindset and that heart, oh my gosh, like your life will be transformed,
Mhm.
transformed from the inside out. And so what was, was there a moment or conversation where you knew, okay, for sure that God was telling you to make this big leap of faith? Like, okay, this is it. I'm gonna leave next semester, like you told me, right? You left, the following semester, and so like, what was, that moment? You're like, yep, like this is the moment right now where I have to go.
Yeah, so it initially started in like November where I was like on the phone with my mom, we're talking through the following semester, like things we needed to get done, just like on like the admin side of being at Liberty and all of those things. And I was just like, Mom, I don't know why, but I just feel like we need to wait. Like, let's not finalize anything, let's not reserve my room that I was living in my dorm. Like, I just feel like we need to wait. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like, but like, let's just put a pause. And then I, started doing that, being like, okay, let's just wait, let's put a pause on this. And it was like the longer that it went on, the more I was like, I don't know why, but I just have this like feeling. I have this feeling like I'm supposed to leave. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know what that meant. And then I remember having a phone call with Nathan Moore, our worship pastor, and we were just talking. And, I was like coming home for Thanksgiving break and then was going to be home for obviously like all of the like Christmas break. So we're like talking through me being home. What does that look like? And so we're just like talking through those things. And then I was like, you know, there's actually something that I kind of want to talk to you about. And so we started talking and I kind of told him the situation. I told him what was going on. Um, and he was like, "Well, Kirsten, like, I hope you know, like, if you come home, you have a job. Like, this is your home church. Like, I've been attending Trinity Church for like 17 years, like since I was very young, and been serving on their worship team since I was in like seventh grade. So it was like
Wow,
Trinity,
that's awesome.
Trinity is my home. And so he was like, obviously, you'll always have a place back home, and we would welcome you with open arms. Like if this is something that you decide. And like truthfully, there was like a sense of like, okay, you know, this kind of gives me a little bit of peace. I think it was like kind of weird to think, okay, Lord, like you're asking me to leave. This means I'm gonna be unenrolled and unemployed. So like this is, not the most ideal situation, but again, like if this is what you're asking of me, then like that's great. And so I think hearing Nathan kind of say like if you were to come home, like you would have a job, pretty much was like, okay. It was like this weird sense of peace. And I don't even think Nathan knew that him saying that was gonna give me that peace. But, I'm trusting that this is what the Lord has for me. And so it was like that conversation. And then I like later on in that week, I had a meeting with my directors at Liberty, and it was like the longer the conversation went on, the more that I just knew. Like the more that I just knew that this was what the Lord was asking of me. Because it was like we were just trying to make everything work, like make the stars align in order for me to stay. And it was like it just like felt wrong. It was like this is not what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with one of my friends, and he like doesn't live in Lubbock, didn't go to Liberty. We like met through like a worship team that he was a part of, and we just became like great friends through that. But I remember having a conversation with him and he was like, Kirsten, I think because you have so much peace about this decision and it's the hard decision, that's how you know that it's from the Lord and it's what you're supposed to do. He
Come
was like,
on.
because the easy decision would be to stay. The
Yeah.
easy decision would be to stay where you're comfortable and just continue on at liberty. He was like, but because you feel so much peace about up and moving in literally a month.
Right.
He's like, that's how you know, like that's how you know that this is from the Lord, and just trust his guidance, trust the decision. And it was like that conversation, him telling me like, because you have peace about the hard decision, that it was like what I was supposed to do. So that was the journey. And that all happened within, I'm not even kidding, like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And then I moved a month later and I was like, this is insane.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love that. And how you said like it was in those big things, you know, it was like it was like these big decisions. It was like it was simple, just peace and understanding in that. You know, and I believe like when you truly just trust God with these big decisions in your life, whether that's a relationship or you know just you know buying something big or just moving and just all like college is a big thing, and so like you know it's a lot of money, it's a lot of everything, and so really if you have a peace about those decisions and really God is speaking to you in those things, the smaller things will be so much easier, right? And so I think those big steps of faith that you take will be evidence of the small steps that you take and that they coincide with each other. That listen, I trust God with the big things and also the little things, and I trust God with the things in between, right?
Mhm.
With the things in between, I trust God with
Absolutely.
those things in my life, and so I think that is just just really my heart's desire, you know, for myself and for our listeners that we would really see God's face and really hone into those voices, right? Because you said Pastor Nathan, like he was talking and you were sitting in meetings, you're like, okay, this is becoming even more and more evident that God is moving and God is working and doing something great. So I love that so much. So Kirsten, listen, I've known you for a while now, and my goodness, your voice is just extraordinary. Guys, to all of our listeners, her voice is just extraordinary. She's anointed. And so I want to talk about your life in worship.
Okay, let's talk
And
about
so, listen, so what does being a worship leader really mean to you beyond the stage? And really give some encouragement to, you know, maybe worship leaders listening to this. Like, what should be their heart and what should be their lifestyle, not just on stage, but off of stage also?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just knowing that you're a worship leader on and off platform. And my my heart shouldn't look any different on platform than when I'm off platform.
Come on.
And I know that because there was a point in my life where it was.
Mm,
And there was a lot of developmental years in my life where the Lord was shaping me and refining my heart. Um, but like I wasn't always like living for Jesus. Like I was one of those rebellious high school students and just wanted to live in the world and be part of that and indulge in things that I shouldn't have been. And the crazy thing was that worship was like still a part of my life at that time. And I look back at those years of my life and I'm like, wow, I was really taking advantage of God's grace. And I look back at that and I'm like, God, I pray I never do that again. Like I pray I'm never like living the complete opposite from what I sing about. Like I sing about a God that is true and he's given us his word and is faithful to his promise, but I'm not faithful to my promise. Like I'm not faithful when I'm up there singing like God, I surrender. God, you are all that I need and you're all that I want. Like if I have you, I have everything. Like I was not living by that. Like I was still looking for satisfaction
yeah.
in and validation in things that were not of God. And it was like I can't stand on a platform and in front of a congregation and people who are seeking the Lord's face, knowing that like off platform I was not seeking the Lord's face. And I think that in worship leading, that was like the one of the biggest convictions that the Lord gave me was like, how can you be on that platform and look like this is who you are? Like who you are is for me when it's not. And I was like, wow. Like I need to take a step back,
Yeah.
do some reevaluating, examine my own heart and acknowledge the things that the Lord is really asking me to remove in order for me to truly be in surrender. And I think that was one of the biggest things. And when I was, obedient to that of saying, okay, God, you know what? You're right. Like, I'm not going to be a part of these things. Like, I don't want somebody to meet me and look at me and think, she sings on platform and she leads us in worship. But I saw her out this weekend
Right.
doing things I didn't look like they
Wow.
aligned with what she's singing about. Like, and that was a huge thing of like, even if, you're not necessarily indulging, it's like, but what does it look like? What does it look like you're doing? If you get caught in the background of a picture, they're not thinking like, oh, well, she's probably not
Yeah.
partaking in things at this event. Like, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you were there,
Right.
and that's what people see. And so it was okay, Lord, like, I'm gonna have to lay down a lot of things and remove myself from things, not necessarily because I'm partaking, but because of how it could look, how it could be perceived. And I want to honor the Lord and I want to honor this platform that He's given me. And if that means removing myself from things, then that's what I have to do. If that means, you know, distancing myself from certain situations, then that's what I'll have to do. But I think it was truly the conviction of I need you to be the same person on platform, and I need your heart posture to be the same on platform and off platform. Your worship should look no different. Your worship when you're by yourself
Yeah.
should look no different than
Come
when
on.
you're leading worship on platform, or if you're in the congregation receiving, like, regardless of where I am,
Yeah.
I want my worship to look the same and I want it to feel the same. And that comes from being in the secret place, that comes from having that intimate relationship with the Lord. And I had to learn the hard way that being on platform is not a relationship with the Lord. That's not what that looks like.
Come
My
on.
relationship with the Lord is when it is literally just you and Him, when you are seeking Him in prayer, when you're fasting, when you're in His Word. That's where your relationship grows. It's not when you're on platform in front of people singing songs that you rehearsed. That's not a relationship.
No
And
way.
and so all of those things are a blessing, and I love worship leading, and I love what I get to do, and the fact that the Lord has blessed me that that's now my career and being in vocational ministry, like I'm so honored that the Lord had that for me. And I love what I do, but I also know that it isn't all that I'm called to do. I'm called to be in relationship with the Lord, point blank period. And I'm grateful that vocational ministries where was the next step for me, but I also learned the importance of having that relationship. And your platform is not your relationship. The platform is a blessing that the Lord gives you. And you just have to learn to steward that well. And I think I still am learning how to steward that well. And I'm still in every season learning different things about the platform and what it means to be a worship leader. But first and foremost, like my relationship with the Lord and the intimacy of our relationship is what comes first.
Come on. That's so good. And really, this like this episode is really so true to me, because recently, the beginning of this year in January, God was just showing me, just like different things, and I have my word, word of the year, and for me, it's alignment. But really, also in that, it was just like God was like, Michael, you got to cultivate your calling.
That's
And really, how do you cultivate your calling? What does it mean to cultivate? What does it mean to continue to grow and to allow God to use you in the things that in the gifts that He's entrusted you with, right? And so, I think it's important for us to understand that. Listen, God has instilled these things in us, and like you said, Kirsten, it's important for us to really. Um, live a life, live a life. God would rather you live a life in obedience out
Mm-hmm.
out of the spotlight than in the spotlight.
Absolutely.
Because the spotlight is is so bright to where sometimes your true self can kind of be blurred. But in the quiet space, come on, in the prayer closet, come on your phone, right where you're at, that's where your true heart comes out. That's where your true identity comes out. That's where your true character comes out when no one's watching, right? When the crowd is around. But and so really, like you said, like how is my life being perceived, not just for people's gain, but to the Lord. Like, how's my heart to the Lord? And I love when the Bible says, serve with clean hands and a pure heart, right? Are
Yeah.
you serving with clean hands and pure heart? Are you protecting your anointing?
Yeah.
Are you cultivating your calling? Are
Absolutely.
you protecting your calling? Are you setting boundaries? Are you saying no to things? Are you saying, hey, that's not good for me. That's gonna cause me to stray. Come on. And I think and I believe that, like, that's really what Christ wants. Christ wants us to cultivate our calling and really live a life for him in every aspect. And guess what? When we live for God for real, off the stage, on the stage is cake. Come
Yeah.
on. Come on.
Absolutely. I
Because
mean, a spotlight is blinding. And
yes,
even in your heart, it can be blinding. And I think any person that has any type of platform ministry should like work harder at asking the Lord to remove the blindness because the longer you stay in the spotlight, the more blinding it can be. And
come
if we're
on.
actively working towards
That's
removing
good.
that blindness to where our eyes are simply locked on his, you're going to lose it. You're going to lose focus. You're going to lose why we do what we do. But you have to just be actively asking the Lord to remove the blindness, remove pride, remove any selfish gain that naturally comes with it. Like it's so easy for the enemy to use what God has given us as a blessing and use it
Wow.
against us and turn it around and make it something where now because the Lord's given us this platform and given us platform ministry
That's so
and it
good.
comes with the spotlight, it's so that's just one of those things that the enemy's going to try and turn it around and make us prideful and
Yeah.
to make us want look for the applause and try to steal the Lord's glory. But if
Yep.
we're not actively seeking the Lord and actively like asking God, please remove the blindness. Please let me never lose sight of what you're doing in these times and why we do what we do, and the fact that this means absolutely nothing if you're not in it. And if we step on those platforms with selfish gain and selfish intentions and seeking applause and seeking validation from man, then we've lost it. Then he's not in it. If I'm stepping on a platform seeking glory that was never meant for me, I've lost it all. I've
Right.
lost it. There's no reason for me to even be up there
My God.
because I'm telling people I'm faking it. I'm faking pointing to Jesus, but really I want you to point at me.
Oh,
That's a very, very dangerous place to be.
is
And the dangers of the platform are very real. But that naturally, because we're fallen, because we have the flesh and the enemy is actively working and you have a target on your back, that is just one of those things that the enemy is going to try to turn back on you and try to turn this blessing that the Lord has given us into something that we lose it all, where we lose the real meaning behind what we do and why we get to do it. But it really is. It takes. It's not just a yeah. I asked God when I stepped into ministry to protect my heart. No, that's something that we have to ask daily, daily
yeah.
as we walk in ministry.
Mom, daily. Absolutely. And I really love how you said that, you have to protect and you have to be careful because the enemy wants to take something that God has given you and use it to bring you glory. Come
Hmm.
on, because that's what the enemy, like, the enemy wants to take, like, he's like, he's like, man, he's such a copycat. Like he wants it,
Mhm.
like he's such a copycat. Like he wants to get all the glory, but guess
Mhm.
what? The glory doesn't belong to him. And I love how
Mhm.
you said this. You said if you're on the platform and God's not in it, it's pointless. It's
Mhm.
pointless. If God's not in it, it's pointless. Get off the
Yeah.
stage, put the mic down, take your innards out, sit down,
Mhm.
right? Because
We're robbing him of his glory. We're
right,
robbing him of the ministry that he's doing. Like, I don't know about you, but the thought of robbing God of anything terrifies me.
Phew.
But the even scarier thing is that we could do it unintentionally or without realizing. And I think that's why it's so important to seek the Lord and ask Him to protect our hearts. And that in all things that we do, that He would just be near and remind me and convict me immediately when I start to do it. Because it will happen. It has happened to me. I've had times in my life where I've had to be like, Kirsten, you did not do that with the intention of giving God glory. Like you did that hoping that people would recognize you afterwards. And that's not why you do what you do. And that's a very real thing. It's a very real thing that happens to, I feel like, literally everyone that has any type of platform ministry. But following that conviction, we repent and we ask the Lord to protect our hearts, to guide us, to redirect us, to remove the things that don't honor Him, and to prune what is good. Um, but it takes the active. What is it? What does Pastor Carl say? Uh, faith without action
Yeah, for faith
is
without action,
something like that.
something like that. Faith without action is dead. We're not saved by our works, but our works are evidence of our faith.
Hmm.
That's a word right there. Come
That's
on.
what.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so listen, I think really just checking your heart, and I love saying this, like taking a life audit your life, audit your heart, like what's in your heart, what needs to be removed, and pray that God will remove those things. And so, Kirsten, I want to ask you if you had 30 seconds to encourage someone standing in a similar place that you are in your life, right? Maybe God has called them to leave something that they thought was comfortable, and God has called them to this new place. What would you say is like what kind of encouragement would you give them in this moment in their life right now?
Yeah, I would say if you are walking in a season where the Lord's asking you to do something that you don't understand, I would tell them to don't try to understand it. Let the Lord reveal what He wants to teach you when He wants to reveal it to you. When you look for your own results, you become disappointed. But when you allow the Lord to give you the results that He wants to give you, it's far greater than the results that you were going to come up with on your own anyways. So just let Him do His thing. Let Him work. He's always on time. He is faithful to provide. He is going to equip you. He's going to give you everything that He's going to give you everything that you need to do exactly what He's asking you to do. He's not going to ask you to do something that you are physically incapable of doing. And all He's looking for is your obedience. And when you give Him that obedience, when you give Him that surrender, He's going to take you further than you ever thought you would go. But it takes the initial step of obedience for the rest to follow. Um, and if we can't live in obedience, if we can't obey when the Lord asks us to do things without the understanding, He's going to ask somebody else.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, that's so good. And Lord, I pray that you don't ask somebody else. But Lord,
Mhm.
here I am. Just use me. That's my
Mhm.
prayer. Lord, here I am. Use me. Lord, don't ask anybody else, Lord. Don't look over and say,
Mhm.
you know what? You're not the one, Michael. I'm gonna
Yeah.
choose them. Lord, I want to be the one that you choose. I want to be the one that you use. And I pray, God, that is our prayer, and that's our heart.
Yeah.
And so, looking back and kind of reflecting a little bit, and kind of circling around, our theme, this episode is titled Songs Yet Sung, right? And so, songs yet sung. Listen, um, there are some songs that there's a song that God is singing over our life. And actually, I'm going to ask you that question in a little bit. But I believe that there's a song that God sings over us, over different seasons. Maybe it's a song of Be Still. Maybe it's a song of move. Maybe it's a song of just wait. And so looking ahead, Kirsten, what's the dream? What's the prayer you're praying in this next season of your life? And kind of just like what is God speaking to you, and what has God laid in your heart for for your future?
Yeah, I think, I mean, my dream is simply just to never lose him. Obviously, that's the hope, that's the goal. Um, my dream is that everything I do would honor him, that I want my desires to align with his. Um, but I mean, ultimately, like, if we're gonna look at the big picture, like, Kirsten, where do you imagine yourself in 10 years? Like, I want to be married, I want to have children, I want to, but no matter what, I want to be in a church. Like, I want to be serving a church. I want to have a home church. I never want to be at a place where, I just like bounce around and, find a place to serve that weekend. Like, I want to always be plugged in to a church. I want to serve a church. I want to serve the church. And I'm so grateful that that's what I get to do right now. And I know what I'm doing right now was a dream at one point. And so I want to continue in that. I want to rest in that. I want to just continue to allow his desires to become mine. And that I want to be a person that's obedient. And I want the Lord to look at me and say, she is a servant and she is obedient. So I can ask her to do this and I know she's going to do it, and she's not going to fight me on it. She's not going to try to argue or
Right.
find a way around it. Like, I want to be a servant and I want to be obedient.
Amen.
Whenever the Lord asks me to do something, that I say, okay, Lord, give me that peace. Give me the peace that I need in order to know that this is from you, and then let's go. Like, I don't have to understand it. I don't need your itinerary. I don't need all of the, time and date of when I'm going to do what and what you're going to do at that exact moment.
Right.
Like, let's just go. Let's just go, and I'm just going to trust you. And I feel like that's my dream. Obviously, I love to travel. I love to see the world, and I love getting to see the church. That was just one of the things at Liberty that I was so grateful that I got to do, was travel and see so many churches. Um, that just love the Lord. But I think growing up in the same church my whole life, and then getting to go and see other churches and what the Lord is doing, and all the different, like, you just learn so much when you get to go to different places, and I see things that they're doing and I'm like, oh, that's so smart. Like, I want to take that wherever the next place I go. Like, I want to implement that in my life and in my ministry.
Yeah.
But those are things that we get from just traveling, and but honestly just trusting in the Lord, and in those seasons when he's calling us elsewhere. So that's my dream. That's my goal, is just keep living this little life, and trust that God's got it, and one day be married and be having children and all
Amen.
those. But no matter what, like, being part of the church, and truly just living in surrender.
I love that so much. Yeah, and so I pray that God will just bless you and that His favor will rest upon you and continue to just just bless you and who you are. And I believe without a shadow of doubt, God is going to do some mighty things through you. And so, listen, as we wrap up, as we finish this episode 7 of season 4, the Champion Life podcast, I want to ask you two more questions. Kirsten, if
Right.
you could sing a duet with any worship artist, past or present, who would it be and why?
Okay, I'm gonna say Abby Gamboa,
Okay.
just because I love her. She's like my, wow, like, her ministry, obviously her voice is incredible.
Indeed.
Um,
Indeed.
but I feel like, I don't know, just in my journey of worship leading and all of those things, she's just kind of been that person that I'm like, yeah, like, she lives a life that reflects Jesus. She loves the Lord with her whole heart. Um, and her worship looks the same on and off platform. I love when I see pictures and videos of Abby Gamboa killing it on platform, but still worshiping her heart out when she's just attending church.
Right.
And in my brain, I'm like, you're Abby Gamboa.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. But I see her and she's still, regardless if she is serving on platform or not, she's going to be there and she's going to be worshiping the Lord regardless. And I think that that's really admirable just to see um, her heart for her family. She has two little kids and she just loves them so much. And she came to Liberty once and she was doing, it was the start of her Pure Nights tour. And I remember just thinking, she sounds the exact same on
Yeah.
her record and as she does right now.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that was just, I just loved her so much, and I loved that album. And so seeing it live, I was like, "Wow, you're incredible." But yeah, she'd probably be my like, "Can I please sing a duet with you?"
Right. I love that. I love that. Yeah. And like really like I really admire artists because not a lot not okay, I'm gonna say this. Not a lot of artists are like that. They're great on the radio. They're great on on audio, but in live they're like, oh, in concert they're like, yeah, you know.
Mhm.
I'm like, I like you better in the studio.
Right. When you're listening to him on Spotify.
right. That's awesome. But listen, last question. What has God been singing over you lately? This could be a literal song or a theme that He's repeating, whether in your word or just in life in general.
Uh, well, I think one of the things that he's been singing over me, um, is just to be hidden, like stay hidden in him, stay hidden in his heart. Let him protect you. Like when we're hidden, we're protected. And I want the Lord to protect me and I want him to protect my heart. And I think while I'm being hidden, the Lord is preparing for whatever it is that's next. You know, I said earlier, like if I had to label this season of my life, then it would be in the waiting. And I feel like I am in the waiting, but I think also at the same time, I want to be hidden and I want to stay hidden in him regardless of the season that I'm in. And there's actually a song by Tiffany Hudson called Hidden. Amazing song. Go listen to it if you haven't. Um but yeah, I would say honestly from that album, I don't recall what the album is like called, but she has a couple songs on that um that are just so good, and I feel like also speak so much into my life right now. She has a song called Hidden. She has a song called Obey, which is all that whole album is just amazing. But those are kind of, I feel like, I don't know, maybe those are the songs that the Lord's singing over me right now. But yeah, definitely just be hidden in him, trust him, rest in him. I feel like there's been seasons of my life where it's been like so chaotic and I feel like I'm running 150 miles an hour trying to adjust and adapt and like just change so much, that it can cause me to like take for granted these seasons where I literally have the opportunity to truly rest
Yeah.
because I'm so anxious and I'm like, okay, God, like what's next? What are we going to do? Where are we going to go? But it's like in those seasons, the Lord's literally just saying, Kirsten, like, just be still, like, just trust me, just know that I'm always working, I'm always moving. But these seasons are seasons of preparation, and I want you to be able to rest in that.
Yes, that's so good. That's really, really good. And so, I think everybody has a song that God is singing over their lives. And are you tuned in? Our last episode we had Jonah Post on. We talked about turning up the gain. What are you turning up the gain on? The song that God is singing over your life, or the
Mm-hmm.
culture, or
Yeah.
world, the society, social media? So
Mm-hmm.
tune in to the song that God is singing over your life and apply it to your life and live it out daily. Well, thank
Yeah.
you guys so much for tuning in and listening to the Champion Life Podcast, Season 4, Episode 7, with our special guest, Kirsten Ursula. Kirsten, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you on today.
Thanks for having me. This is so fun.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, guys, keep living the champion life.